Good morning, dear students. I am Pooja Best, science teacher of class 9. Today is April 14, and in this session, the topic of our discussion is chapter 8, that is motion. So, students, the very first question that comes to our mind is what is motion? Motion hai kya actually? Basically, when an object changes its position with respect to time, it is said to be in motion. Let's take an example of a moving car. When a car starts moving from one position and travels to reach the final position, at that time the car is said to be in motion. Any object, when it is in motion, it is continuously changing its position based on a reference point and as observed by a person or a device. कोई भी ऑब्जेक्ट आप अपने सराउंडिंग में भी ऑब्जर्व करते हैं, कोई भी मूविंग व्हीकल, मूव रनिंग चिल्ड्रंस, देन प्लेइंग किड्स, एवरीथिंग दैट ऑल विच आर मूविंग, विच यू आपको लगता है कि वो अपनी प्लेस से मूव कर रहे हैं एक जगह से दूसरी जगह जाने के लिए, तो दैट पर्टिकुलर मूविंग इज known as motion and that object is said to be in motion. Now motion in a straight line. Motion in a straight line actually hai kya? It is the simplest type of motion. In this, an object or a body moves from its initial position. Initial position वो starting point है जहाँ पे object is present at rest and it travels to reach its final position. That type of motion, इस type of motion जिसमें वो एक straight line path travel करके अपने final position तक पहुंचता है, that type of motion is called as a straight line motion, and it is the most simplest type of motion. Now, as motion is a change of position, it can be described in terms of distance moved or the displacement. Let's take an example. When an object starts moving from A and reaches a point B, so the total path traveled by that particular object or a body is said to be, or it is called as distance. But what is displacement? Displacement is the shortest या straight line distance between that two points, means that initial point and the final point. इन दोनों के बीच का जो straight line distance है, that is called as displacement. And distance वो है जो कि object ने path choose करके travel करा and to reach that particular point B. Right? So distance is a scalar quantity whereas displacement is a vector quantity. Now what is scalar quantity and what is vector quantity? हमने पढ़ तो लिया कि distance is a scalar quantity and displacement is a vector quantity, but दोनों में difference क्या है, क्या होती क्या है scalar quantity and vector quantity? So first of all, scalar quantities are those physical quantities which can be described completely by their magnitude, means उनके number से या उनके साइज से ही उनका पता किया जा सकता है, उनको डिस्क्राइब किया जा सकता है. बट इन वेक्टर क्वांटिटी दोज फिजिकल क्वांटिटी होती हैं जिनमें मैग्नीट्यूड के साथ साथ डायरेक्शन का भी यूज किया जाता है उनको डिस्क्राइब करने में. डिस्प्लेसमेंट में अगर एक ऑब्जेक्ट है ए टू बी, सो मीन्स ए मूव्स in east direction to reaches B. So this describes the displacement. Right students? तो in vector quantity magnitude के साथ साथ direction को का use करके quantity को हम लोग describe करते हैं. Now there are few differences given here between distance and displacement, so it will be easier for you ताकि आप इन दोनों के बीच में और अच्छे से difference समझ सकें. Distance is the length of the path actually traveled by a body in any direction, but displacement is the shortest distance between the initial and final position of a body in a particular direction. Distance is a scalar quantity, displacement is a vector quantity. Distance is always positive, displacement may be positive as well as negative and even zero. Then distance between two given points depends upon their path chosen, but displacement between 2 points is measured by the straight line path. Right students? So now let's talk about types of motions. There are two types of motions given in your book. Number one is uniform motion and non-uniform motion. Uniform motion, as the name suggests, equal. So इक्वल हो, मीन्स मोशन में हम क्या दो क्वांटिटीज यूज करते हैं, फिजिकल क्वांटिटीज, डिस्टेंस एंड टाइम. व्हेन अ मोशन when any object is in motion and it travels equal distance in equal interval of time, that type of motion is called as uniform motion. For an example, any object, let's talk about an object. It travels 10 kilometer in 5 minutes, and in next 5 minutes it again covers 10 kilometer, and in another next 5 minutes it again covers the 10 kilometer. So the time is equal and the distance covered by that object in that given particular time is also equal. So in that case, when equal distance in same interval of time is traveled, that type of motion is called as uniform motion. For example, motion of a clock and motion of earth around sun. But in case of non-uniform motion, the different distance is covered, is traveled in a same interval of time on or vice versa. Vice versa means same distance हो but different time interval हो, तो that type of motion is called as non-uniform motion, means distance and time same नहीं रहता. For example, if an object travels 25 kilometer in 10 minutes, maybe, and it takes 10 minutes to cover next 5 kilometer, means time interval तो same है but distance क्या है वो differ, उसने travel किया. That type of motion is called as non-uniform motion. For example, moving vehicles in a crowded traffic and motion of a bouncing ball. So now there are few differences given here so that it will be easier for you to understand between uniform motion and non-uniform motion. Uniform motion is when a body covers equal distance in equal interval of time, but in non-uniform motion, which is also known as a variable motion, non-uniform motion को हम लोग variable motion के नाम से भी जानते हैं. In this, a body covers unequal distance in equal interval of time or equal distance in unequal interval of time. Those kind of motions are called as non-uniform motion or variable motion. In uniform motion, the direction of motion remains the same, but in non-uniform motion, direction of motion changes. And the examples I have already discussed with you. Now this is the graphical representation of uniform motion and non-uniform motion. In graphical representation, on x-axis we have taken time and on y-axis we have taken distance. In uniform motion, in every 1 minute it covers 10 meter distance. It travels 10 meter distance, means in first minute it covers on a 10 meter distance, then in another 1 minute it again covers 10 meter distance, and in another 1 minute it again covers 10 meter. So means distance time graph of uniform motion shows a straight line path. means आपको अगर बोला जाएगा कि uniform motion जो ग्राफ है उसमें किस टाइप का ग्राफ बनता है, so आप कहेंगे in uniform motion the distance time graph shows a straight line path. But in non-uniform motion graph time and distance unequal होता है, that's why उसमें एक straight line graph नहीं draw हो पाती है. Right students? Okay. So now students, you can use this website for reference and you can also refer the same for answering the questions provided here. And I would suggest you to go through your NCERT book as well. If आपके पास NCERT बुक अवेलेबल नहीं है, आप ऑनलाइन CBSE की वेबसाइट से NCERT बुक की ई-बुक डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं. वहाँ पे आपको पूरी बुक आपको अवेलेबल है. So students, this brings us to the end of this knowledgeable session. I hope you all have understood the topic discussed in this video. अब हम दोबारा मिलेंगे with our next topic of this chapter. Till then, stay tuned and take care of your good health. Thank you.